I flew across the world all the way to Argentina to compete in the Buenos Aires special event, and I played a deck with this fella in it. Regidrago V-Star is the undisputed best deck in the format. It's been absolutely dominating the meta for multiple sets across so many tournaments, and it's the #1 choice for the majority of top players. But I was just playing 1V and 1 V-Star, not the usual 3-3, and the other 58 cards I brought with me to the tournament did not belong in a Regidrago V-Star deck. I was playing Terrapagos Dustmar with a cheeky 1-1 Regidrago line, and it was absolutely incredible. But how did I actually get to this insane deck building decision? I'm going to spend a quick minute justifying this deck so you don't think I've completely lost my mind. Then I'll jump into the actual tournament. Deck building is a lot like a puzzle where you need to check all of the boxes with just 60 cards. For example, I knew that I would be committing 2 cards to extra support Pokemon, either increasing the Pidgeot or Noctowl lines to 2-2 or 4-4 respectively, or playing a 1-1 Regidrago line. I also knew that I wanted a way to recycle supporters. Usually this would be Palpad, but since Regidrago can also do this, I can save a deck slot here and not include it. 3 Night Stretcher would be great, but again, Regidrago can act as a way to get Pokemon from the discard, so running it means that I can be comfortable on just 2 Night Stretcher. There are also a few other key decisions not directly related to Regidrago. For example, I wouldn't play Turtles without some way to really support finding those double turbo energies. I don't think a 1-1 Pidgeot line is enough on its own. So if you aren't playing the 2-2, I think that Colress's Tenacity is a necessity. Or I guess you could play Energy Lotto, but I'm not quite that lucky. Since I chose to go with Colress, which is a supporter I'd often play on turn 2, it means I'm more comfortable cutting down on my other draw supporters and playing just 2 Iono and 1 Professor's Research. I also made the choice to include Lost Vacuum, not just for its utility in certain matchups where you need to remove tools, such as against Raging Bolt or Control, but also as a pseudo substitute for Penny and Turo, allowing me to vacuum away my own stadium and discard any damaged liabilities without needing those extra supporters. This space-efficient deck building mentality allowed me to include that 1-1 Regidrago line that I was so keen to play, as well as 2 Buffalont. Many lists chose to go with a single Manaphy instead to save space while still offering bench protection, but I believe that the Curly Wall is non-negotiable in a meta full of Regidrago V-Star decks. And I could max out my counts of Ultra Ball and Nest Ball, and have 3 Buddy Buddy Puffins, to ensure that I would be playing as many games as possible and almost never bricking. If you want to hear more about the deck building process, just let me know in the comments, and if there's enough interest, I can make a full guide on the deck and the reasoning behind every card choice. With my 60 locked in, it was time to re-sleeve. No one is sponsoring me yet, but I used FCBC armor sleeves for this tournament, and I gotta be honest, they felt really nice. I ran a quick couple practice games with my mate Justin, who I was traveling with, and then it was off to bed. Tournament day, and I get up nice and early, ready for a full day of competition, but maybe a little bit too early. It's 4 AM and I'm getting absolutely destroyed by the difference in time zones. Australia is around 14 hours ahead of Argentina, so my internal clock is flipped completely upside down. I smash some brekkie, have a shower, put on possibly my greatest shirt. Seriously, take a look at this. Toby is a work of art. And then head to the venue to find some coffee so I don't pass out during the tournament. There are 279 other players, who all probably got better sleep than me, fighting it out for a chance to win the entire thing. This means that there are going to be 8 rounds on the first day of competition, and I'll need 18 match points to proceed to day 2. That's either 6 wins or 5 wins in combination with 3 ties. The second day will consist of an additional 2 rounds. After those conclude, the top 8 players, as well as anyone else who has the same score as 8th place, will proceed to a top cut single elimination bracket. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I have to not only stay awake, but also win a whole bunch of matches before I can start even thinking about day 2. And it all starts with round 1. The pairings come up and I sit down at my table. When the timer starts and everyone else is fist bumping their opponent, I'm calling over a judge because mine hasn't shown up. Yep, I got a no-show round 1. If you want to buy for all of your first rounds, I highly suggest subscribing to TimDanklin on YouTube. Trust me. While the free win is nice, the biggest benefit is getting a bit of time to chill out and grab another coffee. After a nice break, it was time for round 2, and I was going to have to actually play some Pokemon if I wanted another win. My opponent was also playing Terrapagos, but I had the advantage going first. Game 1, I'm able to control their board, getting rid of their Hoot-Hoots early and rushing down to having just a single prize left. This is a really key strategy in the mirror, since being at 1 prize means your opponent is locked out of using both Dusknoir and Briar, which are usually how the big comeback plays are made. I win that one pretty easily, but now it's time for game 2, and obviously I'm going to have to go second. He KOs both of my Hoot-Hoots on his second turn thanks to Prime Catcher and a Dusknoir. But by using Pheasantipity EX's ability, Flip the Script, I was still able to establish a Pidgeot EX. With the use of Prime Catcher, I was also able to set up some damage on his Pidgeot so that I could KO it with Dusknoir on the following turn. Pidgeot EX is a really good target to try and stick damage on in the mirror, since it can't be pennied, and if they use Professor Turo to remove the damage, they may not have access to Quick Search on the following turn. Removing Pidgeot means that an Iono can potentially stick and enable a massive comeback. My opponent takes the bait and targets my Pheasantipity EX to go down to just 2 prizes to my 5. But the fact that they weren't able to take one more prize means that I'm still in this. I Dust Noir to finish off their damaged Pidgeot, and now that they have just 1 prize remaining, I'm able to KO their Terrapagos with my Blood Moon Ursaluna EX without needing any energy, and then leave them with a 1-card hand thanks to Iono. On top of all this, I set up a Regidrago V. This means that I can always access any card in my deck thanks to Quick Search, or use it to find Regidrago V-Star so that I can grab any 2 cards from my discard thanks to Legacy Star, such as that Prime Catcher that I'd love to reuse. Ursaluna's massive 260 HP can't be dealt with by any single attack in the deck, so my opponent is going to need to find some Gust to get around it as well as another attacker. They don't, and I win the set 2-0. Next round, I pair against Giovanni. No disrespect to my last opponent, but this guy is next level when it comes to Terrapagos. Despite being a first-year master, he's made it to the finals of his last 2 major tournaments playing Terrapagos both times. This is going to be a real test of my skill in the mirror, and to make things even harder, he's teched for the mirror with Vitality Band. This means when I don't have my Bouffalance in play, his Terrapagos can potentially KO mine, and I can't do the same back to him. Luckily for me, I win the coin flip again, so I'm already off to a good start. Game 1 goes smoothly and I win without skipping a beat, but game 2 doesn't go quite as well, and I can't really get going after he immediately cuts off my Hoot Hoot engine. But in game 3, I should be fine, right? I'm going first. I look at my hand and it's not what you want to see. Other than a Fan Rotom and a Duskull, it is completely dead. I am really relying on this next top deck to be huge. Or he could play Iono and save me from this nightmare hand. Now I've actually got a lot going on and can KO 2 of his Hoot Hoots on my second turn. But he makes a similar play to what I did in the last round and sets damage on my Pidgeot. The game basically comes down to him KOing my Pidgeot and me needing to draw out of an Iono to 1. However, the difference with my deck is that I have more than just Pidgeot EX for insurance against this kind of hand disruption. When he finishes off the bird and plays Iono, I still have both Pheasantipity EX and Regidrago V in play. That means that all I need to do is find Regidrago V-Star or an Ultra Ball to search it out, and I'll win the game by reusing Prime Catcher. I see the first card off of Iono. Nothing. Draw for turn. Nothing. Flip the script for 3 more cards. Absolutely nothing. He's got 2 prizes left to my 1, but the best I can do is stick Ursaluna in the active and punch for damage. I've also got a heavily damaged Terrapagos sitting on my bench, so he really doesn't need much to win the game. But he doesn't have it. The best he can do is pop a Dust Noir and give us both our final prizes. And since we're in turns of time, there is no sudden death and the match ends in a tie. I definitely would have preferred to win and did get pretty unlucky with those final draws, but it could have been a lot worse, so I'll take the tie. In round 4, I pair a Blocklax. Thanks to my special source, Regidrago V-Star, the matchup is incredibly favorable. The goal of my opponent's deck is to trap something that can't attack in the active with Snorlax's ability and just deck me out. But I have both Switch and Prime Catcher, as well as potentially Thornton to help me escape this lock. Normally this wouldn't be quite enough to win the matchup on its own, but Regidrago's Legacy Star ability lets me reuse 2 of these resources, which is almost always enough to get me over the line. When you also factor in Dust Noir letting me get through Mimikyu, as well as take prizes even when I have something useless trapped in the active, the matchup becomes pretty hard to lose as long as I don't prize the V-Star or both of my switches. The games go really smoothly for me, and it is such a relief to hit an easy matchup. But I guess I did kinda earn this through my own creative deck building. He was still a really strong opponent though, and actually ended up going on a run after this and made it all the way to top 8. Next up, I pair my 3rd mirror match of the day. I guess I'm not the only one who thought that the turtle was broken. He wins the flip, but my hand is looking really good, so I'm confident that I can make this work. Turns out he has nothing going on anyway, so I'm able to easily win the first game of the set. In game 2, I'm the one who's completely bricking, and after a couple turns of passing, I just scoop it up and pick first going into game 3. I'm able to take an early lead and eventually set up an incredible checkmate with Regidrago V-Star and Pidgeot EX, while I have 1 prize to his 3. I can still remember the look of complete disbelief at just how unbeatable this board state was. No matter what he did, I could always guarantee game on my next turn. If he KOs my Terrapagos, I can use Pidge for boss, and then V-Star for Terrapagos plus double turbo energy. If somehow he KOs my Pidgeot or Regidrago, I can either find boss with Pidgeot or Prime Catcher with Regidrago. And he can't even try to stall any of my Pokemon without taking a KO, since I can just use Legacy Star for Prime Catcher and get out of the active. I'm now sitting at 4 wins, 0 losses, and 1 tie, looking like I have a really good chance of making day 2. But the job's not done yet, and I've got a Lugia to beat in round 6. In game 1, we both set up and trade prizes back and forth until we're at 2-2. But he has 2 fully stacked Cinccino's ready to one-hit KO anything that I put down. I need to find either Rare Candy plus Dust Noir or Briar to close out this game. game. But I've got really good odds with Serendipity EX to draw 3 more cards, and I'm able to find a Briar for game, taking my last 2 prizes on his active Cincino with my Terapagos. For game 2, I swear my notes just start with "I absolutely cook" in all caps. He goes first and rips turn 2 double chops into Wellspring Ogerpon to KO my Pidgey and Hoot Hoot. I'm gonna be honest, I really should have just scooped it up here, but I could see the line and I really wanted to try and win this game, rather than gamble potentially bricking a game 3 and just losing on the spot. I end up down 5-2 in prizes after a second Wellspring Ogerpon attack, but I've managed to at least stop him from setting up a Cincino. I play Iono to limit his hand, but I can't risk taking a KO on the Ogerpon since it'll activate Gift Energy, which would almost certainly give my opponent boss for game. So I intentionally don't bench 8 Pokemon to allow me to damage the Ogerpon with Terapagos without knocking it out. He responds by punching my Terapagos with Lugia, but it's 10 damage shy of the KO thanks to the 230 HP turtle. I retreat into my other Terapagos and just set damage onto the Lugia. I need more time, but he still can't find the boss for game and just punches my second Terapagos again. I Thornton my benched Serendipity into Duskull and then evolve it into Dusknoir so that it's out of range of Ogerpon's Torrential Pump. But I just need one more turn. I switch into Pidgeot EX and just pass. He doesn't have it and he can't KO my Pidgeot. I find and use Briar, then pop Dusknoir on his damaged Ogerpon for 2 prizes and take my final 3 by finishing off the damaged Lugia with Terapagos. You seriously do not know how good I felt after winning that game. I just need one more win to make day 2, and in the second last round, I pair my first Raging Bolt. This is one of the best matchups that you can ask for as Terapagos. Unfortunately, at the time, I didn't know what he was playing, so I started with Terapagos in the active, and this is one of the few matchups that you don't want to do that. After he takes the first 2 prizes, we go back and forth, but at the end of game 1, he draws out of my Iono, and I'm not able to stop his 2-2-2 prize map, and I lose. Game 2 goes as expected. I open up with a 1 prize board, he can only take a single prize, and then I respond by taking 2 on each of my next 3 turns. I win the game without skipping a beat. Even though he gets to pick first going into game 3, I'm still really favored in the matchup, and we should have enough time to finish the set. And then he has 4 mulligans, which really eats into the remaining time. He even has a really weak start, but time gets called when I still have 6 prizes left to take on my second turn. But I've got a plan. I just need to set up 2 Duskulls and I can win the game with only 2 turns. I'll definitely be able to attack for 2 prizes on this first turn of time, and then on the next turn I can use both of my Dusknoirs and another attack to end the game. But I've managed to prize my second Duskull and my Heavy Ball, so even with this many cards, I'm still unable to set them both up for the following turn. It's alright though, I can use 1 Dusknoir and then Thornton to reuse it. I can still win this. You are not gonna believe which supporter is sitting in my final 4 prize cards. Yeah, we end up tying this game, but it's alright. It just means I can take an intentional draw in my final round to guarantee day 2. There is definitely an argument to playing it out, but in case you forgot, I am completely exhausted and really just need a feed and some sleep. But when the pairings for the final round are posted, I'm not against any of the other players on 17 match points. I've been down paired into someone who can't make day 2 with a tie, and we have to play it out. He's on Regidrago V-Star, a pretty even matchup in my opinion. I take the lead game 1 and set up a checkmate board state with Pidgeot EX and my own Regidrago V-Star. I don't think he quite realized that there was no way out and played out his full turn rather than just scooping. In game 2, I have to go second, but I managed to set up my Buffalons to deny a potential Curon play. My start is solid, but I don't have the luxury of setting up Regidrago on top of everything else. So I eventually lose to a Temple of Sinnoh and Iono to 3. In game 3, I go first, and my hand is alright, but it's not enough to completely run him over before time is called, and the set ends in a tie, which is still enough to get me through to day 2 of the competition. My mate Justin also managed to make day 2 on Miraidon with an impressive 7 wins and only 1 loss. We grab some dinner and I get this insane lentil burger, which actually fully revives me, and then we head back to the Acom to get some sleep. You'd think after next to no sleep on the previous night and an exhausting day 1, I'd be unconscious for 8 hours. But now I'm fighting both the jet lag and the adrenaline of doing well on day 1. So I wake up with exactly 2 functioning brain cells. Luckily, the math works out that I can use one of them for each of the remaining Swiss rounds. First round of the day, and I'm up against Fabrizio, a previous regional champion and an incredibly accomplished player. We actually paired against each other in day 2 of Worlds in Yokohama, but that didn't go so well for me. He's on Lost Box this tournament, and unfortunately, I've been up paired. He's able to guarantee top cut with a win and a tie, whereas I most likely need 2 wins to make it in. I win a pretty lengthy game 1, ending things with a sick Briar play to steal an extra prize. In game 2, he goes first, and on his second turn, he already has 10 cards in the Lost Zone, and just starts destroying my board with Sableye. Knowing I have almost no chance at this game, I quickly scoop it up and start game 3. He is constantly targeting down my Duskulls, preventing me from accelerating the game. Normally, I'd be able to circumvent this with Thornton, but he's hanging out in the prizes this game. I'm not able to end things before we run out of time, and the game ends in a tie. When I look at the standings before the final round, it does look like there's a world where
22 match points can make it into asymmetrical cut.
I'm gonna have to win this one if I want to stay in the tournament.
In the last round of Swiss, I'm up against Otavio, another regional champion, and he's on Regidrago V-Star, the strongest deck in the meta. In game 1, he goes first, but has a pretty slow start. Unfortunately, I do as well, so I can't immediately capitalize on it. But after a couple turns of us both going draw pass, I'm able to KO his only Regidrago V and snowball that into a win. Game 2, he goes first, and yet again, both of our decks refuse to work. He can't find Regidrago V-Star, and I can't find Noctowls. I do, however, naturally draw into both of my Buffalons, which helps me tank Regidrago V's attacks. He Dragon Lasers me 3 times before I can do anything. Eventually, both of our decks do start doing their thing, and we get to a board state where he needs to take 3 prizes to win, and I still need 2 turns. He uses Dragapult's Phantom Dive to set up damage without taking a KO, in order to take those 3 prizes on his next turn and deny me from using Pheasantipity EX. But I have a way out of this. I may not play Penny or Turo to remove the damage, but I can use Lost Vacuum on my own Area 0 to discard my damaged liabilities, and then attack with Blood Moon Ursaluna EX. With the double turbo energy, I can deal 220 damage without the need for 8 benched Pokemon. Now, he has no way to take 3 prizes on his next turn, and on top of all this, I have both Pidgeot EX and Regidrago V-Star set up. This is a complete checkmate, and I win the game and the set. After those 10 Swiss rounds, these are the standings. I've made it into the top 8 at 6th seed. But Pokemon has introduced a new top cut system this season, asymmetrical cut. Everyone who has the same score as 8th place will also be included into top cut. In this case, it means that there will be 11 players. And in the first single elimination round, 8th seed will play 9th seed, 7th will play 10th, and 6th will play 11th, while the top 5 seeds will all receive a bye straight into top 8. This means that I'll have one more round before securing my place in top 8. Making it over this last hurdle is so important, since there is a huge jump in the number of championship points you earn from top 8, 280, compared to top 16, only 160 points. I don't even have time for another coffee before I get called up to play my first round of top cut on stream. I'm up against Nicholas Galaz, and he's playing the new Palkia Jet Energy deck. This matchup can be really rough if they go first and get off a turn 2 Greninja to destroy my board. And he wins the coin flip, getting to go first. His start is alright, using Fan Rotom to set up 3 Hoot Hoots, but he isn't able to find a Palkia V, so I'm safe from Greninja for now. I'm able to set up a really strong board, but have a tough decision to make. I can either bench the second Buffalon to protect my Pidgey and Hoot Hoot from Fan Rotom's attack. However, if he were to attack with Terapagos, he could target down my only Hoot Hoot, leaving me stranded, without a way to start my engine. I make the call and bench a second Hoot Hoot instead, since risking not being able to evolve into Noctowl would be just too devastating. He finds the boss and takes out my Pidgey with Fan Rotom's Assault Landing, but he still doesn't have a Palkia V down. I'm able to Night Stretcher to get my Pidgey back and take a return KO on his Fan Rotom. He finally sets up his 2 prizes and uses Prime Catcher to knock out my Pidgey again. I respond by searching out Thornton to swap in my Pidgey and evolve it into Pidgeot EX. He just can't get rid of this thing. I counter catcher up one of his benched Palkia V so that I can take 2 free prizes on it before it evolves and has too much HP to deal with. Although targeting this over Pheasantipity means that he'll see 3 more cards, it also means that I'll have a much easier time closing out the game. He Ionos me to 3 and takes out my Terapagos, putting him at 2 prizes to my 3. I just need to see Rare Candy, Dusknoir, Ursaluna, and a way to gust something up, and I'll win the game. I rip Research and use Pheasantipity to see 10 new cards, and I've basically got it. I have Rare Candy and Ursaluna in hand, so I can just use Pidgeot for Regidrago V-Star, which will then get me Ultra Ball and Prime Catcher. I pop Dusknoir on his benched Hoot Hoot and gust up Pheasantipity to take my last 2 prizes with Blood Moon Ursaluna. In game 2, he opts to go first again, and although he finds Palkia V this time, he can't find any Hoot Hoots. I've got a pretty strong opener on my side, but again, I have to choose between benching more Hoot Hoots and getting double Buffalons. This time, I choose to get the double Buffalon since I already have Rare Candy and Pidgeot in my hand, so I'm alright with him taking out my only Hoot Hoot. He does exactly that and then sets up a few of his own Hoot Hoots. I'm able to fill up my bench and take 2 prizes on his bench Palkia V with Prime Catcher in order to take the lead. He easily responds with a Palkia V-Star to KO my Terapagos and uses Lost Vacuum to limit my bench, but I can see a way to win on the next turn. I use Dusknoir to take out one of his benched 1 prizes. Then I Thornton my Buffalon into another Dusknoir to give us each another prize. With the prizes now at 1 to 2 in his favor, I can simply bench Ursaluna, counter catcher up his Terapagos, and then without the need for any energy, I take the final KO, winning me the set and locking up my place in top 8. My top 8 game is a rematch against Giovanni. He starts off going first with a really strong turn 1, and when I do my initial deck search, I am devastated to realize that I've prized both of my Dusknoir. However, I eventually take it off of my 3rd prize and am able to make a huge play, where I utilize Legacy Star to recycle Thornton and win the game with a surprise Dusknoir. In game 2, despite going second again, I'm in a really strong position to win the set. I Iono him down to a 4-card hand and should have game on the next turn, but that 4-card hand just so happens to have 2 Dusknoir and a Noctowl, which then searches out double Rare Candy, and he's able to steal it away from me. And I'm gonna be honest, in game 3, we both played some of the worst Pokemon I've ever seen. It starts with me misreading a board state, thinking that he's at 3 prizes when really he's at 4, causing me to take an incorrect line that essentially throws a game I should have easily locked up. But I'm still in it and just need to see one of 3 combo pieces off of an Iono to 4. Then I can use Pidgeot to find Noctowl, which will grab me the other 2 and I'll win the set. But I don't see any of them and just have to pass the turn. And he easily has game on board with quick search for boss. But he doesn't do it. The boss must be prized. He just punches my active and gives me another chance to win the game. But I whiff again, and now he definitely wins on the next turn. I ask him if the boss was prized and he seems confused. He didn't realize that he could have just won the game on the previous turn. Even the judge watching our game couldn't believe that he missed it. I guess that just demonstrates how absolutely exhausted we both were.
I'm eliminated at 7th place out of 280 players.
Unfortunately, Justin was also knocked out in the first round of top 8, but both of us making it this far is a pretty successful heist.
Since it's a special event, the prizing wasn't that great,
But this performance does basically guarantee me a travel award,
which is essentially 3.5k to go to the next international, EUIC.
I already had one covering this trip, so it's really nice to secure another.
But as successful as this event was, it was just the warm-up for the real tournament. The Latin America International Championships in Sao Paulo, Brazil. With 1,810 masters competing in just the TCG and over $500,000 in cash prizing. I'm not going to spoil it, but you won't want to miss my video on how I did there.